Hi, I'm Michelle Price from Spiritual Events Directory and Rebirth Magazine. I'm here with you again to introduce another fabulous person we're going to have a chat to today. That is Imogen Bailey, who's sitting on my left. And we're going to be having a little bit of a chat about what Imogen has been up to. And it's going to be really exciting. I'm so looking forward to this chat, Imogen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm excited to chat to you today too.
Now, Imogen, you may know Imogen's name, and that's because she's been in the entertainment industry, or was, for about 20 years, I think, Imogen, doing modelling
Yeah,
and a few different, TV appearances and things like that. But you've popped up in kind of a different way. And I've been seeing these advertisements pop up in my Facebook feed, and I'm like, what is this? What's going on here? So, by way of introduction, and I'll allow you to elaborate on what I'm sort of introducing you as, you're a women's circle educator, a birth and end of life doula. And I do want to ask you about that because I've heard of birth doulas, but I'm not sure about the end of life. That's very interesting. Meditation teacher, Reiki practitioner, and a fabulous woman. So thank you so much, Imogen, for joining us.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's a
So,
great intro. Thank you.
I hope so. Was there anything in there that you wanted to elaborate on that I didn't sort of, highlight that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that covers where I am at today, where I'm at in my journey and
Wow.
everything I'm passionate about right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Fabulous. Now, I did want to ask because I think it's important for people who have known you, as the model and the actor and all of that stuff. And then we're doing, all of these amazing spiritual things. For me, I wanted to know, like, what was the turning point? Like, was there a trigger for that? What sort of changed in your life for this amazing journey?
I think as an actor, you explore a lot of this journey stuff anyway. It's often part of people's training and part of their exploration. And I sort of did my time living in LA and doing all that exploration and having an amazing journey there myself spiritually, which was completely opposite to the acting career that I thought I was going to pursue. But in 2013, I got a call to be a part of a show called Go Back to Where You Came From, which followed the journey of refugees coming to Australia. And I decided to go on that journey. I was sort of seeking a job that was something that would, I guess I kind of, without sounding cliche, I kind of called out to the universe and said, show me something I really need to see. That's the job I want to manifest, and Go Back to Where You came to me, and I went on this journey that was through Africa and Indonesia and then back to Australia, and showed the incredibly hard journey that refugees go through to get to Australia to try to start a new life. And that was a really huge turning point for me. It opened my eyes to a lot of things I had never seen before. It opened my eyes to, I think we know from the news what it's like to see a country that's in war and extreme poverty, people under extremely harsh conditions that we thankfully, we don't experience. We have poverty in Australia, absolutely, and hardship like bushfires and these things that require the same amount of help. But I don't think we know what it's like to be in a war-torn country with no government and no police, and there's guns everywhere. And at the time I went to Mogadishu, which was the most dangerous city in the world at the time. It was completely lawless, and I just started to move on this, my journey really took a different path where I started to see that I needed to do something that was of service. And, I'm still an actor. I still love that. That's my passion. That's my art. But that led me on a journey to being a birth doula, because I wanted to study something where I didn't have to go to university, but I could have a skill that I could offer where language wouldn't be a barrier as well. So I became a birth doula, which is a non-medical support person. And then I studied from there. I became an end-of-life doula, which is, again, a non-medical support person in the end-of-life space, which it's always been in history doulas, it's the Greek word for woman's servant, and it's a role that's ancient and has always been there, but it's sort of now starting to resurface. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Imogen, can I just interrupt there, because I don't know a lot about doula. Doula's
yeah,
a new word for me, but I've always associated doula, I guess, with, you know, birth, because when you hear doula, they
yes.
don't say birth doula, they just say doula. So doula means woman's servant. So that means helping them through various, you know, stages of life then, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, look, it's a non-medical support person that's used in many different special events in life.
Yeah.
So it could be, now there's doulas for lots of different things. There's doulas for grief. There's doulas for, you know, if you lose a baby. There's now doulas also for women who are having abortions. There's lots of different, you know, it's a role that is about offering nurturing love and care and support without having a medical opinion, because obviously you're not trained. I mean, I know the ins and outs of birth, but I don't do medical procedures or anything like that. But I'm there always. You know, I've seen C-sections done. I've been in theatre when that's being done as a support person, and it's the same in the end of life space. It's you know, it's the ingoing and the outgoing, and we you know, we sit with people, and we sometimes we're an event planner, sometimes we're just a middle person to help, because quite often families are under a great deal of stress in that situation, and it's nice to have someone who's you know, one person removed. They're not within the family, they're not your best friend, but they are someone who can advocate for you. There's somebody who can organise for you, and somebody who can also hold your hand right to the end. There's a lot of people, both in birth and in end of life, who don't have somebody. Unfortunately, they don't have a family member or a partner, and they need somebody to be with them. So it's a very, you know, it's a really beautiful role, and it's really interesting. Like I said, it could be a whole nother conversation, but to see the correlation and the synchronicities between birth and end of life. So I often say to people, my role actually as an end of life doula or a birth doula is very similar.
Wow. That's so interesting. So interesting.
Yeah,
Gosh. And I just wanted to ask one more question about the end of life.
sure.
Are you spiritual? Can you connect to spirit? Do you feel, you know, their family in the room? Do you have that sort of connection when you're at the sort of end of life process, or is it
Look,
more?
I'm not. I
Okay.
know there are absolutely doulas who are. I'm somebody who I consider myself to be an anchor in the room, and sometimes that is of a very, you know, a very spiritual anchor, and I can do that role. I don't have any clairvoyance or anything like that, apart from I have very tuned natural intuition and instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I can be in the room and be completely non-spiritual, because some people don't want that, right? Like some
Yeah.
people just want the anchor, they want the love, they want the energy, but they also don't. It's an interesting time, I guess, because the other part of that conversation is that people quite often explore their spirituality, their religion, how they feel about birth or end of life in that space. So I kind of become whatever it is that the person needs, really,
Yeah, I love that.
and don't bring my own opinions and baggage and stuff into the room. What I would have for me is probably very different to you know, what I would be for someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Imogen, the women's circle stuff that you're doing now, and you're a women's circle educator, I'm guessing as part of that you host circles and then you show people kind of how to do it. How did that side of things come about? Because we've talked about where the doula came from. When did you sort of get into the women's circle side of
So
things?
I've been going to Circle myself for over 10 years. I discovered them whilst I was living in LA, and I was really lonely. And I, you know, was going through a lot of changes in how I felt about my career and my direction, and just super lonely, because it's a great place to live, but also a very lonely place to live when you're trying to kind of find your feet. And a friend of mine introduced me to Circle. I started going, I was like, this is amazing. Why was there not more of this? So I became very committed to going to those, because I really needed them in my life. I really needed the support of other women. I needed to be excited and stimulated and inspired and motivated, and also held and nurtured in a way where I didn't have to edit myself. And we would do great creative activities, and we would talk about the books that we were reading. And there's something just very authentic and pure about it. There was no competition in the room. I think we live in a very hyper competitive culture, and it's really nice to be in a space where you can leave all that behind. So I started going, and then I became more and more interested in it. I did some training with an incredible woman called Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves while I was in the States. And that just kind of really got, the juices flowing. And I was really excited about storytelling and how women need that in their life, and need to do it as well in groups, and the art that comes from that, the expression that comes from that, the creativity. And also my favorite word for Circle is incubation, because it really becomes that for women, when women can sit together in that warmth and create and learn and share with each other. It's an incubator for so many different things in our life, things that you don't even expect are going to happen just from being there together. So, I started doing more of that, and then I started teaching, and then I started training people, and this has kind of evolved. I wrote a training course because I saw that there was a lot of people that were doing it, but they didn't have the basic skills of holding space, or, how to do it in the modern world. And, I think we naturally know how to hold circle. I think we naturally know how to hold space, but I think the tradition of circle in its purest form, when you put it into the modern world, where we have a lot of mental health issues, everybody's fast paced, there's hyper competitiveness, you kind of need that, modern tradition, the ancient tradition with the modern application of skills, to be able to do that. And also what I wanted to do was encourage women to do circle, not just kind of like this cardboard cutout of, here's my way of doing it. It was more, here's some tools and some framework. What can you create within that? And that I started doing it in person, and then I gradually I put it online. I now had over 600 students, and we have circles going all around the world from our training, and it's been really amazing. I roped my husband into it because he's a wonderful business coach, and at first he was like, I don't know if I want to do this. This is so different for me. But I was like, there's a lot of women that really want to do this and need this, and they need some of that business skill set.
Yep.
Not because because I know a lot of people in the spiritual world kind of go, but we're not meant to make money out of it. But to practice something that you love as a passion long term now, we do. And money is an exchange, and it's an exchange where if a woman is coming to Circle, I want her to be able to gift that to herself.
Yeah.
So, my husband came in and started doing it, and then we created this online training. And especially at the times now, during COVID, we added in how to do Circle online as a free kind of training for all of our students and new students. And it's just been amazing to see how it's grown. It's grown from me doing the doula work, and also, I guess, the fundamentals of my training are based on my training as a doula.
Oh, okay.
So, doing the doula work, bringing those fundamentals into it, going into Circle, and then training. And now, we're just seeing so many women, now I really feel the love of it, who come back and say, oh, I've started my Circle. And it's you can tell I'm passionate about it because I can't shut up.
I mean, and it's great. I love to talk too, so that's we're a good match. The circles image, and it's so good that you mentioned about being online, because I actually ran circles just up here. I didn't really know what I was doing. Just kind of started it during
Yeah,
2019, and then 2020 hit, and I was still doing it, and then COVID, and then I just stopped doing it. So
yeah,
it's good to know that we can still do it online and still have some sort of benefit. And I feel like from listening to you speak, it's probably so much more needed now,
mm,
and with because people are still going through stuff with COVID, so it's probably more needed than 2019 when I started doing it. So, but I've just sort
yeah.
of thought, oh gosh, we can't have people in the house, and so it's not really a barrier from what you're saying. You can still do it.
No, I think, if you had have asked me a year ago, I would have said, no, it must be in person. Even though I train people online, I started training online because I found that everybody goes at a different pace. And some people wanted to take a year to train and some people wanted to take a week. And so that really worked. And I still have one-on-one time with people. But when COVID hit, I said to my husband, oh, we have to, teach people how to do this online straight away. And the thing is that before COVID, loneliness was a global epidemic that is actually killing people. It's up there with heart disease, and that's, all the things that stem from it. So if you're lonely, you have a higher chance of certain health disorders, you have a higher chance of addiction, you have a higher chance of having violence in your life, you have a higher chance of this whole list of things that stems from loneliness, right? Because we don't get that really positive social interaction with people, which is good for our, especially as women, we are tend and befriend by nature. So we get that hit of oxytocin, and men need it as well, which is good for our health. They've actually done studies on it that when women tend and befriend, they live longer and they have better health.
Mm.
So when COVID hit, it was like, wow, like this is already a massive problem, and what is going to happen now? And so I think it's been, while people weren't able to be there in person for each other, there's been a whole lot of people, including myself, who always said in person is best, who we've had to turn around and say, we have to learn it. We have no choice. We must learn how to do this online, because it's extremely important for people's mental health and stability to be able to have that in-person connection, but online. And amazingly now for me, I kind of feel like I can get it. It's just as good for me. And I think that's because so many of us have had to surrender to, okay, we have the technology, we have the ability. Yes, we've had resistance to it, but we always have to move with what's happening in the world today and be present in that. And so to be present in that is to be able to run your circles and your treatments and your connections online. So we now do that. And I think I really applaud how many practitioners, not only in circle, but in, so many different avenues, including the spiritual world, right, that have really taken it on board and said, no, I still want to serve people. I will go online. So it's, it's possible. And I think why we also need it is because there will come a time when this will be, it may not be 2021 when it's the year that has been, but hopefully we'll see what happens. But there will come a time when this comes to an end or takes a different shape, and we will have to meet again in person, and that will be amazing. And people will not only have needed the circle online to keep them going, but also they're going to need, some people are going to need to have that attention and help to learn how to reconnect again with people in person. Our mental health numbers are going to be higher than they've ever been, and we're going to need people to be bringing people together. And that's why I think in this time, things like circle, not just women's circle, but men's circle and teens circle and wise circle,
Mm.
for the older generation is needed now more than ever. We have to go back to it because we really need it.
Yeah, yeah, I found, hosting them myself, that it was a lot of single mums who were coming
Yes.
along, and yeah, and I was fine with bringing children, that's totally okay. And it was like the only day of the week they were getting out, and the rest of the days
Yeah.
they were just at home, with their children, which is good. That's, family.
Yes.
But it is nice, to have something else in your life and be able to talk to other
Yeah.
women who, are maybe single as well and know what you're going through, and, all that sort of stuff. And, there's a variety of purposes, obviously, for circles, and you listed a few, but I found in my group that it was a lot of single mums, and they became friends. They might have seen each other. Their kids might go to the same school, but they've never sort of spoken. And this is a forum that sort of brings people together, so that it's forming friendships, which I think is amazing. What an incredible
Yeah.
opportunity. Yeah, yeah,
And it really is something that can be added to a schedule
yeah.
in workplaces, in community spaces. And it's not just the spiritual side. Like, I am the person that if there's a full moon circle and everyone's nude and we're like saging and doing all that, that's me. Like, I am there. I love that. But I also know that this kind of ancient tradition works incredibly well in the learning space. It works incredibly well in the corporate space.
Oh,
It
just give me
works
a bit more on
incredibly well in
that,
the
Jen.
charity space. Sorry.
Give me a bit more on that. So what are we talking about with that? Like holding, like, in a lunch break, or how are we in
It
a...
can be at any time. It can be in your lunch break. It can be something that's done in the workspace once a week, where, it can either be done with women and men separately or everybody together. But I think it's just like for any of us, it's a nice thing to be able to recharge. So if you allocate that hour and a half, or it can be half an hour to having that time, it's incredible to see what happens as far as people connecting. And resilience is a really big, has been a buzzword in the corporate space for a long time. And what I love is that people who are interested in spiritual journey and are interested in grounding and being zen and being all these things, that you can bring that into corporate and workspaces for people in a way that is beneficial to them, and introducing them to a journey that they perhaps wouldn't necessarily have taken before. And I say to all the students that we have training for Circle, you turn the volume up or you turn the volume down. It's whatever works in the space for the people that you are serving at the time.
Wow, that's really cool. So you and hubby, are you sort of, some of your students, are they doing that? Like, are they putting it in?
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. And I have students that are doing it in all different spaces. I have one of my students does it for a local preschool,
Oh my gosh.
with preschool children who love it. And then people who are going into all different workspaces. I have people who work with people who are recovering from addiction, people who work in the jail space, who are going into jails and doing that. So, there's a lot of, I like to work with people who have different ideas as well. So I have women who will come to me and say, I want to do your training as a foundation. Like, this is what I do. And we always talk about, what's your personal journey? What's the skill sets that you have in your repertoire? And how do we turn that into a very unique circle? And the sky's the limit, really. I have a few students who work just specifically with women who have lost babies. I have women who work with older ladies who are retired and they still want to get together. And I have actually one woman who works with older ladies, and they talk about running, what businesses they'd like to do now that they've finished their what's been their career, and they incubate stuff together and they work together and they do it like you would a business incubator in any other space. So I think that's what's become really interesting for me, is learning from other people all these different applications that where you can like, Circle doesn't have to just be let's light a candle and hold hands and sit around and sing Kumbaya. that's amazing if you want to do that, but it's also
Nude.
such a malleable, yeah, it's such a malleable tool, right? It's this amazing tool that works really, really well. And in this, you know, in the education space, well, they've done studies about bringing it into universities in America, where it's really worked to help people with studying, and you know, children who have gone through really hard journeys with parents who have been incarcerated, and you know, kind of journeys like that, and then they use Circle to help them to support each other. So I could talk to you for hours about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of the Kumbaya girl. Not that we have done Kumbaya, but that's a great idea. But, you know, I guess I sort of thought of it as just something that you call people to your home and you kind of do it in the backyard, or I've got a room here that I do it in. But that's such an interesting variety of applications you mentioned there that I hadn't really considered. So, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Circle is a tool, right? So the circle is sitting in the circle, and the way that I teach, there is a format to it that I have found that works best, but all the creativity that goes with it and the way that you apply it is so different for every woman, and what her journey has been, and the people that she can serve because of that life journey, right? So you know, where I started was in the lounge room, and also in going into spaces and definitely doing the very spiritual kind of version of it. And the longer that I did it, the more that I realized that it's a tool, and it's a tool that can be applied to many, many different situations, and it's just as powerful.
Yeah. So what's coming up for you, you know, 2021, I guess, you're growing, like continuing to grow the online, you know, teaching and stuff like that. Is there anything, you know, you wanted to mention about?
Yeah, I mean, we're growing the online teaching. We're expanding into new areas. We've been working. I trained a group of men a while ago now, and we've sort of been piloting that training. So we will be having a men's training that I do with my husband. We're refining our teen training, so people who work with teens, and we'll be we've got lots of other things happening. We've got we've got a scholarship fund that we're about to start, which we're super excited about, which means that we'll be able to train a lot more women, and women who have been unable to afford to kind of get started on their own. So that's really exciting. And just lots of different versions of, we have a family version of Circle starting as well, so people can bring it into their homes.
Good idea.
Which is really cool. So we're really excited about that. But yeah, we're just, you know, I think what we've realized and we've kind of grown with is that we started with this one version of Circle, and it's become many different. And so we're now honing all those, and the ones that have been most popular, and you know, going from there. So there'll be lots more training and the scholarship stuff.
This is so fantastic, Imogen. It's just been amazing. What an eye-opener. Here I am going into this conversation thinking, oh, look, you know, I know about circles, and you've just taught me so much. Like, this is...
Which I'm so happy to hear that you're doing it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, this is amazing. So we will get your, you know, your contact info, you know, how people can get in touch with you, all of that sort of stuff. We'll make sure we put that up. So that will be up when this video goes up. And and there'll be lots of beautiful photos, of course. So Imogen, this will of course be in Rebirth magazine for our viewers. You'll be able to catch all of there in a double page spread. So it's going to be very, very exciting. And the imagery that you've got done is beautiful. I often see it pop up in my newsfeed. So you've done a fantastic job with all of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, wow, what a lesson. What a lesson. That's been wonderful. Now, if anyone else would like any information on advertising, or if you wanted to be in Rebirth magazine as well, then there's a couple of ways you can get in touch. You can either email rebirth@spiritualeventsdirectory.com, or you can message our page, Spiritual Events Directory, on Facebook. Imogen, thank you so much again. And lots of exciting things happening in 2021 for you. Wow, big year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.